Today, on The Report, we will be discussing a horrific tragedy out of Houston, Texas, and a high school teacher who was on leave after a controversial video went viral.
Followed by the Northern California storm and more changes in Disneyland prices, all this and much more on The Report.
Hello, I'm Amanda Mendoza.
And I'm Jorge Flores. Thank you for joining us today for The Report. Although our co-anchor Chris is out today, she will be returning next week to discuss our headline news. Follow us on Twitter at The Report CSUF or on our Talent TV Instagram, Talent TV CSUF, to keep in touch with us and view our new content.
Disturbing news out of Texas as a mother and her boyfriend have been charged after 3 children were found abandoned in an apartment with the decomposing body of their 8-year-old autistic brother. The Harris County Sheriff's deputies made the horrific discovery after a 911 call from the eldest sibling, a 15-year-old boy who told dispatchers that his parents had not lived in the home for months. Their mother, 35-year-old Gloria Williams, has been charged with injury to a child by omission and tampering with evidence, a human corpse. Her 31-year-old boyfriend, Brian Coulter, has been charged with murder after an autopsy showed signs of blunt force injuries on the young boy's corpse. The 3 brothers who were abandoned were living in deplorable conditions with cockroach and fly infestations and little access to food. 2 of the boys reportedly told deputies that they saw their mother's boyfriend beat their brother until he was no longer moving and his eyes turned black. Williams told a judge Wednesday that she confronted her boyfriend for beating her son, and he apologized, saying he lost control and beat the boy until he, quote, went to sleep, end quote. The boys' school said they filed truancy reports on the mother, but they went unanswered, and there were no reports of follow-up from the school. A spokesperson from CPS said there was a history with the family, but no recent reports. Relatives of the boys told news outlets that Williams was estranged, not letting them know how the children were or where they were living. Both Williams and Coulter could face additional charges. Just to kind of clarify what happened, so as I mentioned, the boy who died, he was autistic, and at least 2 of them also had autism. And also, there was no furniture, no power, and according to the investigation, the boy was beaten sometime between November 20th to the 29th of 2020. So that's approximately a year from today. So I want to know, what are your thoughts? Do you think there's anything else that the neighbors, the other family members, or that the school could have done?
Totally. Well, first of all, yes, that's true. These are disturbing news because of 2 concepts that they come into my mind as quick as possible. Number 1, irresponsibility. We're talking about these are adults and they are not even caring about the children that they had at that home. Also, what's going on with the neighborhood? Why they didn't say anything about it to the police department, to the elected officials from their city? I mean, there could be a lot of things around this situation that they were just numb, that they didn't have any kind of action. And I'm really mad at this because this was an insane type of living for these children. And no one did know nothing about it. And that's where it really makes me even more mad that if they know that they're going to have children under their control, they should be responsible of taking care of them.
Exactly. They should be responsible parents. And in regards to the neighbors, you mentioned that, people didn't do much. But however, what's interesting is that apparently a lot of the neighbors knew that there was a 15-year-old boy, but a lot of them thought that he just lived there alone. And so some people thought that something weird was going on, but they didn't even know about the other kids. And so what I was wondering is, is there anything else they could have done? Could they have called the police or, child protection services? And what's interesting is that one of the neighbors would actually give the 15-year-old boy food because he depended on her. And she gave them some about 6 months ago. So I think that's really interesting. So what do you think about the school? Do you think there's anything else they could have done?
I think, yes, whenever it comes to the educational department of every single city, it's their also responsibility to be in charge of taking care of their children. Furthermore, I believe that definitely these criminal charges, they should be punished, and they deserve that. Because we have a justice system in which we need people to be defended by those who they are doing, of course, bad things like this ones. I mean, not taking care of the children, that's obviously bad, and they should face those criminal charges as soon as possible. So what I'm very interested in what's going to happen next. What are going to be the real punishment and what's going to happen to these people. And in some local news, a California teacher was placed on leave after videos of her wearing a Native American headdress were posted online. The woman teaches at a school in a Riverside, California school and put in the fake addresses to teach math. In the video, she's chanting, quote, "Sokahata," end quote. The controversial term is mnemonic device and sometimes used to help students remember the trigonometry terms sin, cosine, and tangent. The teacher can also be heard saying, quote, "I don't know tomahawks. Is that right?" End quote, while making a chopping motion with her hands. An indigenous student recorded the video and showed it to Akali Brown, a member of the indigenous community, who then posted the video on Instagram. Critics of the teacher have said that she was mocking Native Americans while enforcing negative stereotypes. Riverside County School District is currently performing an internal investigation on her behavior. Well, these are also news that are very popular, first of all, because of the disrespect that she was causing. Now, in my opinion, personally, there are no reasons why you gotta take specifically this strategy to really teach people math. I think this is outdated, and this was racist, and this was disrespectful. What are your thoughts on this, Samantha?
Oh my goodness, this was racist. Look, there are so many ways you could teach high school students about triangles where you don't have to be racist, sexist, homophobic, using any kind of hateful ideology. Look, she could have used it in a rap. She could have made a little song, done her own original dance, but she had to essentially appropriate a culture and then make fun of them. I just think that is absolutely despicable, and I feel terrible for Brown and any other Native American students that might have been in that room. They had to witness this from their own teacher and see their teacher who should be this great example of what an adult should be, basically make fun of their own culture. I think that's awful.
Yeah, and I mean, we gotta look around. I mean, we're living different times. We're living in 2021, and this teacher still is trying to teach in this way. Like, these concepts are so important. When we're talking about racism, sometimes my people like say, well, you know, it's just about the vocabulary, but also about your actions. I mean, she was wearing already like this whole dress, trying to imply and somehow to appropriate a culture that is not part of her culture. So this is completely disrespectful. And even some organizations that were criticizing her by saying that more than disrespect, this is also this appropriation of culture that is happening more and more, because some people, they just think that it's easy to dress like a person from another community and think that's okay. Now, what I'm very interested is that she knew maybe that she was being recorded, or at least that she was in public with students, and she didn't think about the consequences that could be happening to her after dressing like that and trying to teach like that.
Exactly. And I think that kind of connects to something interesting, is the debate about ethnic studies classes, because some people say, oh, this might be racist against Caucasian people, but I think it is very important to teach people about the struggles of Native Americans, African Americans, Latinos, and Asian Americans. So what's interesting is that I read on Forbes that Newsom signed a bill which requires high school students to complete this ethnic studies course, and this class would teach them about all those ethnic groups. And so to the people who say that this isn't needed, I think situations like this show why it's so important. We need to be respectful of all cultures, because think about it, these teens will grow into adults who have an impact on other kids and the other next generation. So I think more than ever, especially with social media and all sorts of information flowing and coming around, I think we need an ethnic studies course that educate the mass populace. Cool. More to come, but first, we'll be right back after these messages.
We scored?
Yeah, we scored. We're going to the playoffs.
I can't believe I missed that.
Every time I'm buzzed, I spend too much time on my phone.
What? I should take your phone away.
No. I'll call for a ride. Hey, why does my face look like that?
I'm playing with these new face filters.
Okay, you know what? Yep, that's mine.
I'm gonna need that back.
No.
Kevin!
Now, in some more California-based news. While people all over California experienced rain on Monday, Northern California experienced a historic storm. The powerful weather caused flooding, power outages, and mudslides. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, it was tied for the third strongest storm since 1950, based on the Bay Area Storm Index. Mudslides hit areas that are still recovering from recent wildfires. Burn zones can't soak up as much water as quickly as a lack of vegetation, which can cause dangerous conditions and mudslides. Parts of State Route 70, where the Dixie Fire burned, were closed by officials due to multiple landslides. Residents in Northern California were urged to stay home and to stay off the roads, as some people were evacuated due to the dangerous conditions. So I watched videos of the storm from ABC 10 News, and the storms are incredibly intense. And while it was raining over here, it didn't look like it was anywhere as bad as it was in the Bay Area. And I think it still kind of shocked me because after the drought, which we're still in, but after the severity of the drought here in SoCal or in most of California, it's still kind of surprising to see that it was able to rain so hard over there and cause mudslides and everything. So I want to ask you, do you think Californians are prepared for weather like this, especially due to global warming?
That's a great question, Amanda. First of all, because, we know that climate change is real. And my point of view is, again, with the public policies that we're trying to take care of, at least here in the state. I believe that we are not completely ready to get into a full of understanding of our infrastructure that we really need in our state. However, I think that our elected officials so far, from Governor Newsom up to those city councils in every single city, they're trying to do their best. So hopefully that the less and less people that are going to be affected by these kinds of floods. And hopefully in the future, we're trying to take down all those consequences of human activities provoking more of that pollution that we are now living every day.
I'd actually like to ask you, because personally I have a first aid kit, I have some, I have a first aid kit, I have flashlights, I have portable batteries, but I'd like to ask you, how prepared are you for a storm as big as this if it were to come down in this area?
That's a great question. Personally, I think, and I'm sure that I'm not that prepared. The truth is that sometimes we're just thinking that, at least here in our county or in the state, we don't face that much of rain, that we're just thinking, well, that will be really, really weird for California to receive that kind of, whether it's a flood or a rainstorm, any kind of those kind of storms, and we just think that that's never going to happen to us. However, now with this is just a clear example that we're not exempt from it. So, as Northern Californians were searching for higher ground, Disneyland was announcing higher prices. Disneyland Resort announced a price hike on Monday, which will take the highest ticket price from $154 to $164, introducing a new tier to the system. This is the 5th time Disney has raised their theme park prices in the past 5 years, the last time being in February 2020 before they closed for the pandemic. They will also be raising the cost of parking at the Disneyland Resort from $25 to $30 a day. This news comes shortly after Disney announced they are doing away with their free Fast Pass system and will instead introduce Genie Plus and Lightning Pass paid alternatives to get through lines faster. The Genie Plus Pass is an additional $20 per day. So again, Disney pricing up their tickets. I cannot believe it. I was always wondering the time for me to go in the best special day, but now it seems that there's no special day for me. I gotta be waiting maybe to the next year to get to go to Disneyland. So what are your thoughts on this pricing up?
So essentially, I bought the SoCal resident deal during the summer, so I was able to go for three days. I had to reserve a day, and I believe that was $83 per day without taxes. And so for me, at that time, I think it was only about 200 something. I thought this is such an amazing deal. I'm so excited. When can I go again? And now with the new Genie Plus app and the price hikes, I'm like, I honestly don't know. I love Disney and I would like to go again, but I think because of the pandemic, the prices raised. And so what's very interesting is that the $1,300 Magic Key Pass is already sold out, despite these price hikes. And also, according to Yahoo Finance, Disney lost $6.9 billion in the fiscal year. So do you think this has to do with the pandemic? And why do you think people are still coming back despite the price hikes?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, talking about the business perspective, yes, it's of course the pandemic. I mean, they need to make money under whatever that means. And also because we have high demand, there's short supply for the business, so that's why they got a price up. However, from the consumer perspective, of course we don't like this. We're just looking at raise over raise every single time that maybe we're just doubting ourselves to really enjoy the experience. And maybe this could also just demotivate our ability to go. So I think that really hurts. And according to the Qualia Agency website, it's this organization which focuses on trying to predict different prices in the future. And they were saying, and I quote, that most probably in 2030, the Disneyland one ticket for one day is going to be costing over than $250.
$250.
So we can start imagining ourselves that maybe we're not going into the right direction, at least when it comes as a consumer. So what are your thoughts on that?
So that's actually really interesting to hear because I could see that happening, $250. But what I wonder, is there going to be a point where the prices become so high that people won't want to go to Disneyland as much? Or do you personally think that's just whittling out, the masses? That way, poor people or people who don't have, as much money as like someone in the upper middle class won't be able to go. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, until a certain extent, I believe this kind of discrimination towards people who they have the dream to go to Disneyland, and at the end they know that they don't have the money to go. I think that's going to really affect the popularity of the resort as well. And maybe they're going to try to look into other experiences to the competition of Disneyland here in Orange County. So maybe they're going to start looking to Knott's Berry Farm. Probably. So I think it really depends on the prices they're going to be taking care of their own popularity and the way that the audience is viewing them. But hopefully that us students, the young people, can still enjoy in the future and experience close as Disneyland. And well, with that, that's all the time we have today on The Report. Have a safe week, everyone, and stay tuned for more news, views, and info. I'm Jorge Flores.
And I'm Amanda Mendoza. As always, tusk up, Titans.